I'd like to call to order the May 17th, 2016 meeting of the Pentucket Regional School Committee. So we will start with roll call. So Wayne Adams is here. Joanna Blanchard, I am here. Doug Jelena is here. Andy Murphy is here. Lisa O'Connor is here. Brian Page is here. Chris Redding is here. Dina Trotta is here. And Jack Follett is here. Majority vote, 4.6. There you go. Thank you. This is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I would just like to begin the meeting introducing our most recent member of the school committee. So Dina Trotta comes to us from West Newbury. She has a young child in the school system. I think it's going to be really valuable to have somebody with an elementary school child on the committee. So thank you very much for running and for joining the committee. Does anybody else have anything else you want to add? Okay. Thank you very much, Dina. Also, we just want to thank Chris Weil. So Chris was on the committee for 5 years. He had a lot of qualities that I really admired. He was extremely detailed-oriented, and as somebody said recently, he kind of kept our T's crossed and I's dotted. That might have been you, Brian. I can't remember who said that. But it was very true. So I just want to thank him for that time that he served with us. Does anybody else have anything you want to say?
He'll be missed.
Yeah.
Not that we don't. We appreciate you coming on and taking the challenge.
I would just like to say I also want to thank Chris for being on the committee. He kept everything with the field project and everything moving right along. I think it was a great help. And I would also like to recommend to the superintendent, if we do go in an MSBA building project and we need a committee from outside, that we please extend an invitation to Chris to sit on that committee. I think he'd be a valuable asset to it.
Absolutely. He takes excellent notes.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has this many.
Okay. So.
Agenda?
What is that? Did I get? Oh, I missed that. So do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Any discussion?
Did you want to add the informational items at the end, or just provide them?
Which information? Items?
Remember we had the donations information.
Oh, yeah, they're not on this. Okay.
They're
Yes.
just for information.
Yeah, so we have some donations that have to be added for informational at the end. Okay.
Them yesterday.
Okay.
Background music.
Yeah, they were in the packet though, right, Marianne?
No, I
They
got
weren't
them
in the packet?
We
yesterday.
just got them.
Were there some in the packet?
Yeah.
Okay.
The PEF came yesterday, so I just didn't want to hold them up, so we
Okay.
can recognize them, we can move it along.
Okay. All right, so to have a motion to, so we did it first. So all in favor of the agenda as amended? All right, unanimous. Okay, so minutes, do I have a motion to approve the business meeting minutes of April 26, 2016?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor? Did anybody abstain? You abstained, I assume.
Oh.
Did you? Or did
I
you
was
vote?
there.
You were there, okay.
I was a voting member at that point. Not as a voting member.
Okay. But did you get that? You got everybody?
Yes.
So a motion to approve the public hearing meeting minutes of May 3rd, 2016?
So moved.
Second.
Right, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Abstain.
Okay. Okay, and then on to public comments. Is there anybody here from the public who would like to come to the mic at this time? Okay. So then the first thing on the agenda is the reorganization of the school committee. So the chair this year goes to Groveland, and the vice chair goes to West Newbury, and then the secretary will be going to Merrimack, and then the treasurer can be anybody from any of the 3 towns. So would anybody like to appoint somebody,
Make a
make a motion to appoint somebody for chair?
nominate.
Like to
Nominate,
nominate,
okay.
like to nominate Lisa O'Connor for chair.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Is there any discussion on that? I'd like to say that so Lisa's been sitting in, she's been vice chair this whole year, she's been attending like every planning meeting with me, so she's really prepared to take over this position. So, do
Does
you
she
accept, do you
I do,
accept the
I do accept
nomination?
it. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
All in favor of Lisa's chair?
Okay.
Is that unanimous? Okay. So is there a nomination for the vice chair position?
Let's nominate.
Wayne had
I'd
his hand
like
up
to
first.
nominate Dina Trotta, because it's worked out so well in the past 2 years. It's a good way to get her feet wet and not skip a beat at the same time.
Okay.
It's a good learning tool for her. She can learn a lot from it.
Second.
A second. Are there any other nominations?
Do you accept the nomination?
Yeah.
I'm going to decline. I really appreciate the offer, but I want to kind of sit and watch and learn before I take on that role.
Okay. Do we have any discussion for, do we do discussion? Go ahead.
Jack's gonna burst, he
Dee.
can't talk.
If I
What's
read right, you wanted to learn by being involved in everything in your campaign.
Yes.
And I believe this would be an ideal tool for you to learn, really. Rather than coming to 8 other people and asking them their ideas, which are all different. You're gonna be going like this, but you'd be right there with the superintendent, learn exactly from the ground zero, everything.
Wayne?
You've got to be real apprehensive for anybody to sit here, and to sit here for 1 week and all of a sudden be thrown into the fire.
Yeah.
Has to be scary, but it's less scary than you really think, because now it enables you to sit, listen, and learn and contribute when you want to, when you feel comfortable. Just as Ms. Blanchard did the same thing for the last 2 years. She sat in that position, and then she went right into being the chairperson. I think you'd be making a mistake by declining.
Chris?
Well, given the fact that Dina has declined, I would like to nominate Andy Murphy as vice chair for the next year. I think that a lot of what he's done this past year, I'm impressed with how much he came up to speed with regard to a lot of the issues we're dealing with, and took a leadership role on the communications subcommittee.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So Dina, you declined, so
I decline.
the motion is for Andy, so all in favor of Andy? Oh,
Has Andy accepted?
oh yeah, I forgot. Andy, did you accept the nomination?
Sure, I'll accept it, thank you.
Okay.
Are there other nominations?
Are there any other nominations? Okay, so all in favor of Andy Murphy as vice chair for West Newbury? Opposed?
Okay, we're gonna have to do this. Opposed,
Wait.
raise your hand. Doug's opposed, Joanna's opposed, what about Lisa?
Yeah.
And Jack?
Abstain.
So 4 is Chris Redding, Dina, Wayne, and what about Andy? Yes?
I'll vote for myself, sure.
Okay. Everybody? I'm missing 1 person.
Yes, I abstained.
Okay. It failed. Motion failed. 1.2, 2.4, 3.4, I mean, I have the sheet, but
Yeah,
3.4.
let me just look at the sheet.
Sorry.
So,
Yes,
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 yes, yes.
and Adams, so 2.1, 3.1. 3.2. And then no
No
is
was-
Jelina. Blanchard,
Joanna, Blanchard,
O'Connor.
O'Connor.
So 1.1, 2.3.
1.1, 2.2, 3.3, right?
Yep.
Oh, 3, and this is 0.2. So 1.1, 1.3, 3.5.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Motion failed.
Okay. Chris?
Well, considering in the bylaws it is supposed to rotate around, and Dina has turned it down, and I have no interest, so I would turn it down. I think that we need to get to a similar situation that we were when we hired the new superintendent back years ago, when there was a split vote. And then a second vote has to be to put the person in who's going to fill the roles that is per the agreement that it goes through the 3 towns.
Joanne, do we have to fill
We do not have to fill it.
Does the bylaws state that we have to fill it tonight?
It does not
That
have,
if it failed and we have a situation we presently have, that it needs to be filled tonight? It can't be tabled for a week for all candidates to think about it,
Well,
knowing full well. I mean, is that illegal
No,
according to
you
mass
could-
laws?
you could re-vote at the next business meeting to fill the position.
But my question goes back to the original thing, is that who are you going to fill it with? It should be a West Newbury representative. I have no interest in doing it. Dina, I think rightfully has turned it down because she doesn't feel that she has the background to be able to understand what's going on until she's sat through a few of these meetings. To have her in her first full business meeting take over that position, I don't begrudge her the fact that she doesn't want to have it. So I'm not quite sure what's going to be different in the future.
Wayne?
What you're saying is all true, but we're all humans, and her having an additional 2 weeks to hash it over, think about it, talk to you about it, or other people, it gives her a better chance to say, well, maybe I could do this, maybe this is in best interest for me or the committee. So even though I agree with you that we're kind of in a stalemate here, but at the same time, 2 weeks would be a good time that everybody can think about it, and quite possibly it'd be unanimous, Andy. And certainly he would feel much better about it, 9 votes for himself, but it gives 2 weeks for all 9 people to think about it, and certainly Ms. Trotter to think about that, what she has to offer and how this could come about, and how she needs to get her feet wet. What you're saying is absolutely true, but there's no reason we can't have it in 2 weeks.
When you're saying 2 weeks, are you meaning
The
the
next
next
meeting.
business meeting?
Next business meeting.
Just
Can
a
I
month
ask
away.
a question? Could the people who voted against it articulate why they're voting against it?
I can speak to that, I guess.
Okay.
I think it would be a good experience for Dina. I myself came in my first year and I was a secretary. My second year, I was my first year I didn't hold a position. My second year I was secretary, and then my third year last year I was vice chair. And I can honestly say that my last year I learned a tremendous amount, more than I did than just serving as a committee member. And I also think that Andy, serving as a communications person, has done a tremendously great job doing that. And, you know, I think, you know, it is time consuming, and it's something that we need to continue on with, you know, the full transparency and communication to the public. And I think it would be a lot for him to take on both roles. And I think he's done a great job of doing it. So, and, you know, Chris has turned it down. So I think given West Newbury
Yeah, but
members.
Dina has turned it down as well.
Dina has turned it down as well, but you asked me, you know, why I voted the way that I did. But I think that Andy has done a great job with the communication, and I'd like to see, you know, continuation of that.
Can I speak for myself? So, you know, clearly, some of you probably would rather I were not on the school committee. And I can see why. But one thing I can tell you is I took this job seriously, and I applied myself, and I put a lot of effort into it. and have accomplished what I think are some decent things, both here and working with Dr. Mulqueen. So why don't we take another vote later on, maybe it's a couple of weeks from now, whatever. But I'd like you all to just think about what we're here to do. And I'm taking it seriously, and I'm sorry if I don't agree with everybody on every issue, but it's because I'm taking it seriously. And, you know, it would not be a problem for me to serve this role. I'm a busy guy, but I can make time. So why don't we let it rest and come back, and maybe you can all think about that and think about what it really might be like if we just move forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so secretary is going to Merrimack.
Nominate Wayne. Second.
Wayne, do you accept the nomination?
What?
I think Mr. Page looks like he'd been excellent secretary.
So are you accepting the nomination, Wayne, or?
I think he nodded in approval, unless I missed his
Well,
facial
I seconded
expression.
your nomination. Are you nominating me?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll second for Brian. Brian, would you accept the nomination?
Sure.
Okay. Wayne, did you accept or no? Okay. All right, all in favor of Brian as secretary? Okay, abstain. Brian, you abstained, right? Looked like.
Yeah.
Okay. And then treasurer can go to anybody. So are there any nominations for treasurer?
Jack's good with money. I'll nominate Jack.
Second that.
The secretary,
Signs
Same
its
with
payroll,
the
yeah.
second.
The treasurer's,
I mean the treasurer, yeah, you only step in if, yeah,
it's an assistant.
yeah.
The full committee's out.
No, if the treasurer
It's
is
the
not-
treasurer.
If the treasurer can't do something.
The treasurer in the business office can't do her job.
So, any other nominations?
It's a tough one.
All right, all in favor of Jack? All right, opposed? Abstain? You abstain. Okay, all right. So at this point, I'm gonna, I mean, I don't want to speak on this issue right now. On the, just because this is really a committee issue for the reorganization. Not on the committee reorganization. Jeff?
Joanna, I, as a member, would like to thank you. You've done an excellent job.
Thank you, Jack.
We've been hard on you. You've come to the task, you've answered it, and you've done an excellent, excellent job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this point, I get to very thankfully move over and relax.
Can't do it fast enough.
So we'll turn the meeting over now to our new chairwoman, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa, for accepting this job.
Thank you, Joanna.
Nobody really wants.
And thank you for all the work that you did on the committee as the chair and teaching me a lot of information that I would not have learned otherwise. So I appreciate it. Okay, so the next thing on the business agenda is the superintendent's report for the 2016-2017 school year.
Thanks very much. So typically I'm talking about the kinds of things that we've accomplished and the kinds of things that we're looking for in the future. And I think we're at a point now where it's time to really come together over our work more as a team than me accepting responsibility or kind of ownership of those accomplishments, because I think it's more about us as a team than it is about just the superintendent. So I wonder about everybody just thinking about one thing. When you think about Pentucket and its accomplishments, what's that one thing in your mind that distinguishes Pentucket for its ability to really be the district of choice or the career opportunity of choice for educators, or the investment opportunity of choice for the community? So what's one thing? Just take a minute, think of your one thing. It shouldn't be too hard to labor, you shouldn't have to labor over it.
So,
Yeah, what's one thing?
the innovation schools.
Innovation schools. What's another thing?
State-of-the-art athletic facility.
Okay, athletic facility,
Consistent communication.
consistent
Weekly.
communication. Andy,
I just think the word progressive, I think we're
Pretty
adopting
progressive.
modern education, unlike other schools at the moment.
okay.
Sustainable budget.
Sustainable budget, there we go. Anybody in the audience? What comes to mind?
I would have to say, I'd like to say positive working relationships for all stakeholder groups. I think there has been a marked improvement.
Uh-huh. Anything else? So those are the kinds of things that demonstrate our ability to come together and the effect of our unity of purpose. So it's all of us working together. I think, as Maria said, it's all about us working together to get to the next step. And it's been really a labor to get to that next step. So I know the world-class component has some people thinking about, well, you need to tone that down a little bit because you're not world-class right now. Well, we're on a pathway to get to that point. And I was talking with somebody recently about how every opportunity for us is really about taking that next step, making the improvement, and not belaboring the things that get in our way. So that's really a tribute to all of us. And these great things are a testament to us working productively together. You often hear me say or read the line that I write about, great things are possible when everybody works together. And I think all those things that you mentioned and other things too are a testament to us working together. The work, though, can be pretty intense and pretty complex. So there are times, for instance, later we're going to be talking about the mascot. That's a pretty complex issue that we've got to wrestle with, or that you've got to wrestle with. And circumstances can require some difficult conversations. So we're having that difficult conversation right now about the mascot as an example. There are other conversations that we have that are difficult with parents or staff members or the community or each other. And what has continued to be impressive to me is that when these terms that seem to be in conflict come to the table, what is so impressive to me is that we come to the table with an open mind and we listen and we're able to get to the next step together. So rather than having people just stay in conflict, by listening to each other, and what comes to mind again is the hearing that we just had, even though we had two sides represented, there were a lot of common things that were said from both sides, which was really pretty great. Sometimes conflict, though, can be unproductive, and that involves things that hold us back. Unproductive conflict can have the cloud of other agendas or, self-interest. And what I find really helpful is that we all keep coming to the table. I think, as Andy said earlier, we're coming to the table with one interest in mind, and how do we keep moving the agenda forward? So while we pursue our world-class future, we have more to accomplish, that's evident. And I reflect on how can I help all of you, all of us as a team, take that next step? What can I do to better become more effective as a team? And I also wonder about how we can improve our effectiveness as a group. So those are the next things that I'd like to think through. So I put myself out there as a beginning point. So I'm open to ideas about how I can improve your effectiveness. But then as a secondary part, which can be a little threatening, how can we improve our effectiveness together as well? So I'm just putting those out there. I don't know that we have to answer them tonight, but I'm open always to how I can improve, and I think we need to start thinking about how as a team are we able to move the agenda forward too. So we're doing a good job already, but I think we could probably do a little bit better. So I'm looking forward to the upcoming school year. I think we have lots to accomplish. Great things are in store for Pentucket, and I think it will require more intensity from us and untangling the complexity because these issues are complex. But I really am encouraged and enthusiastic about the future. So that's my report. Wayne?
I want to make one comment. We forgot probably the biggest of all, where we presently stand for proposed future building project. And that's got to be as exciting as any other thing we presently have for all of us, and the challenges we face to have that accomplished. So that was a big one that I missed.
Yeah, and again, that will be intense. That will be intense work, require a lot from us. There'll be some hard conversations that we have to have, but knowing that everybody's coming to the table with the right agenda in their mind, it will help move us forward. So that's a really great example.
Any other comments? Thoughts?
Yeah, so I just want to say, like, I feel like overall, all of us have, the same general goal of, trying to move forward to improve the experience for all students and for all of our staff here. Sometimes I think we get sidetracked on our own, like, personal issue that is actually kind of maybe a small issue that might seem important to each of us individually, and I have to remember not to do that, in order to keep moving forward, like keep the big picture in mind.
Yeah, the spring is a really good example. Like, I just sent out a memo to our faculty that talked about how, like, we're busy for the whole year, and then spring hits, and suddenly things are a lot more intense. And one of my principals said, it feels like somebody has taken a handful of buckshot and just thrown it in my direction. So there are lots of things that come our way, particularly in the spring. And by working productively together, we're able to separate out what needs attention, what doesn't need attention, what needs just a little bit of attention, so that we can maintain that focus and keep moving along. So I think that's a really good point.
Anything else? Okay.
All right.
So next on the agenda is new business, and the first item is the mascot. So the Pentucket Regional School Committee conducted a public hearing that everybody was aware of on May 3rd, 2016, for the purpose of gathering public opinions about the mascot. And this was added to the agenda to discuss and for the information that was gathered. And this is a discussion only, as no vote will be taken.
So what did y'all hear?
I probably talked enough.
Maybe we could take it side by side, like, what do we hear from the pros, what do we hear from the cons, change, save, I don't know.
Brian?
I didn't hear from anybody, honestly. The only thing I read were the emails that I received from the superintendent through Mary Ann. My thought on this is I don't believe that we need to change our symbol or mascot. I don't feel the Indian is offensive. If our super sachem is doing something that other people feel offensive, we can stop that. As far as our bullying policy, I don't think if this is somebody's being bullied over this, then that's what our policy is here for. That also can be stopped. So that is just my opinion. The sachem was chosen as the sachem is a leader, and I think that Pentucket chose well when they did that. I think that, or I hope that we are, when these students graduate from this high school, go on to be great leaders. And that is my opinion. I don't think we need to change our mascot. I think we need to change whatever the super sachem is doing. If it's the uniform, the headdress, the chop, or whatever, I think we can stop that from happening.
Anyone else? Joanna?
The thing that I found really interesting about the meeting was that, we had tried to get the information out there to as many people as we could that we were having this meeting. I know Andy had it posted on Facebook. We got it posted on the different Facebook sites in town. We had it connected, sent out, so all the parents in this school should have gotten an email about the meeting, and it was also in the paper. But the original generation that established the sachem as our mascot, they said that they had a hard time actually, finding out about the meeting. And yet they were the ones who showed up. So what that told me is that the original group who established the sachem as the mascot is the group that seems to be most connected to it. And, the other thing that they kept saying was that, the one that we have in the headdress, that is not what we chose. The original one, which is I think the one that's on these cloths here, that's the sachem that they chose. And I think the gentleman who was here at the meeting who was Native American said that is not offensive, but the headdress, sachem, is offensive. So there's a couple things. First, I think we need to figure out what is our official seal going to be. So, we can't just, I don't know when this new sachem came into being, the one with the headdress, but I think we need to have something official as the school. So we need to decide this is our official seal, and you can't just change it or use any Native American imagery that we want. And the other thing that I'd like to see is somehow I'd like to see this current students become as invested in whatever mascot we have going forward as the original generation. So I want to make sure we have a way to honor what they originally chose and also try to tie students, the newest students in. So that's just a question to the superintendent. Is there any way for us to get the students involved in this decision going forward?
Yes, certainly. So there's a way for me to engage students across the whole district. I think, I haven't given a lot of thought to it, but there are lots of ways. The challenge will be that with about 4 or 5 weeks left to school, that I'm not sure that that's a reasonable expectation by the end of the school year, but I think there are lots of ways.
Anyone, Jack?
Yes, I was quite enlightened by a lot of things that were presented that night. But one thing that I think, and I would hope that the superintendent would try to do, would to do away with the annual football where the chief runs out and that's not the sachems, okay? The chief, the tomahawk top, that's not the sachems. And also, one thing that I learned from Amesbury did state, I'd like to see education. Perhaps not at this level, but it's younger in the elementary, so that they actually do get some enlightenment of what exactly this is, okay? I mean, we see a medicine man, we see the Merrimack River, and we see trees around them. And I find nothing offensive about that. I think it's a very, very nice. We don't have an Indian as a mean look, and if we do, I would hope that through attrition, we would eliminate that. This is our logo, as Joanna said. This is what we are,
The seal.
the seal.
Uh-huh.
I think Doug was before, Lynn.
I talked to a lot of people about this. I put out some questions just to try and get some feedback, and most of the people I talked about thought that a Indian mascot would be offensive. And one of the things that stuck in my mind was one of the people that complained was one of our students who's moved on and graduated into their life somewhat, and they're reflecting at a point to realize that I'm not very proud of what I've done. And that's disturbing to me. So on that level, I would like to see something done to change the mascot. As far as the sachem name, what comes to mind with that is generations from now, as people are, from now, they having families and so forth, the ethnicity, and I'm hoping I'm using that word right, is going to get spread out and weaker and weaker and weaker, and it's a fact. So at some point, I gotta believe it would be nice for these people to look back and say, yes, that's where our roots were. That's where we came from. And that was the leader of our tribe. So I'm thinking that you know, we need to do justice to those people as well. Thank you for your time.
Wayne?
First, I want to make a comment. We're all assuming, and I do too, the gentleman that brought in the first Pentucket yearbook that was 2 feathers down was indeed what they intended. To the superintendent's office, the gentleman from the class of 61 wrote quite an eloquent letter, actually. He articulated everything quite well. He was a sophomore at the time, and he was on the committee, but he didn't say in the letter any particular thing. But if we are to assume the first yearbook had that, then that's it. We can easily, through time, change that on all athletic uniforms, etc. The next ones we purchase. The AD has to be there. It's got to be strictly enforced. If that was a point that some people really want, if that's the original, that's what we want, we can easily address that. Because in the yearbook, no clubs, no anything. Just pick any logo they want. Just put it on T-shirts or anything else. It'll be against school committee policy. So that'll be taken care of. And one point I wanted to make that first, Andy, I can tell you did a lot of work on it. It was quite obvious and evident. You've done plenty of work on slideshows. Secondly, one of the points you brought up that I really liked was you said student achievement, student performance, and our mission, okay? I agree with you as well. For any individual, for any reason at all, if they don't feel safe and comfortable in their learning environment, then it's not going to be a positive thing ever for anybody, whether it's race, culture, creed, whatever. But I want to, since you started off the slideshow with that, I was looking for some more reinforcement. Well, I want to point out to the school committee that a neighboring regional school, Topsfield, Boxford, Middleton, Masconomet, if you look at student achievement and student scores and make a comparison to Pentucket Regional over the years, you'll see they fared real well. My point being, just 2 years ago, the Boston Globe named Masconomet High School the #1 high school in Massachusetts for school culture and climate. And I'm saying to myself, and I did indeed get to teach there for a full quarter, and I did indeed see that in their student body. And the Globe had a big definition of what they meant by school culture. It had to do with their attitude about school, learning, getting a higher education, achievement, etc. They probably will go through the same thing we are now. Tewksbury did, and that's by the wayside. Amesbury, no doubt, will as well, as will many other communities around. But if we try to attach it in parallel to student performance or learning, I'm not sure we can do that. If we've got one of the superior high schools in Massachusetts that the Globe claims, according to whatever their study was, and that may or may not be valid anyways, but saying they are #1 over everything, yet they are the chieftains. And yes, on all their garb, they're not standard either. You can find varying ones. So I think school committees across the board certainly could make that a standard thing if that was a sticking point for people. And if it were linked to student performance system-wide, I don't think there'd be a person here that would vote for not changing the mascot.
Okay, so.
Andy?
So, you know, it's interesting because Dr. Mulqueen and I had a good meeting today about the innovation schools. And when I think of student achievement, and I think when he does too, we don't think of the test scores. We think of how we're preparing our kids for life. And, you know, how it's great in the innovation schools that kids can try lots of different things and find out what they're interested in, not only academically, but potential careers. So, and in that presentation, when I was talking about achievement, that's what I was talking about. And the issue here is that to me, it's no different from the other graphical representations of the mascot because it represents Native Americans as savages with feathers in their head, and that's what it is. And the guy who stood up and read that litany of issues with the Native American community, and, the drug rates and alcoholism and dropout rates, well, all of that is due to what's happened to them in this country, where their society, they've been separated and they've been told they're less than the white majority. The government even had special schools for them in the early 20th century with the goal of teaching the culture out of them. This is all due to this dynamic of Native Americans being kept separate and different. And as I said in the presentation, the mascots, it's not just ours, it's lots of them, are a part of that problem. Honestly, I never thought we'd ever make a change. I assumed this was a losing cause from the beginning. There are over 60 Redskins still in this country. But I wanted to at least raise the point that, if we're going to talk about student achievement and preparing kids for life, we cannot have tolerance for racial stereotyping. And as long as we have that graphic and the other ones, we are. So I recognize that it's a bridge too far to probably want to change the name and the logos, and we have so many of them. I mean, the football team's got Crazy Horse, we got, Geronimo for the other one. I would like to suggest that we entertain the idea of voting on the notion of, fine, let's keep the Sachem name. And actually, we got a letter today from someone in town who was in that group that wanted to keep the mascot. He suggested doing this. Keep the Sachem name, and let's at least do away with the graphical representations. That at least, I think, gets us headed in the right direction. And I think in 20 years, we'll see we're on the right side of history. So, that's the end of me.
Jeff, what's next?
I was just going to follow up on what Wayne was talking about. Wayne, you mentioned a little bit about the consistency or the pattern of making choices along the way that kind of deviate from the original. And I know, so you and I might have a better idea what you're talking about, but I wondered if everybody does. Like, you've had some experience with athletic teams and uniforms and that sort of thing, and I didn't know if you wanted to just give a few examples of how you can start with something and over time it just...
Well, I developed a publishing course too, and I ran it for 15 years. In this publishing course, had a different 15 kids running it every year. And every year there's different kids with different ideas, so it's not unusual. Same thing with athletics. I coach basketball, baseball, and football, and the change of uniforms are big for kids. And a lot of times individual coaches want to have their team feel good about themselves and allow the teams to pick the graphic representation they want. So somebody pointed that out to me last time, and how come there are so many different, and that's the reason. That's why I said we could easily keep it standard by making it a policy. Then every time a yearbook is published now and it's represented, same thing with all athletic uniforms, from banquets that put them on tables, etc. Everything will be the same of whatever the school committee has indeed okayed, and hopefully it's a reflection of the community, not us nine people.
Yeah, Chris, you want next?
So I had two things that I wanted to respond to. One, Jack had mentioned about the education, and in my daughter's history through school, second grade, I think, and Maria, I don't know if they still do it at Bagnall, they have a big unit where they study the Wampanoags, and I know at Page School they actually have somebody from the tribe come up and explain his culture, and I think that is great at the second grade level, but I think most of that is not then repeated again and again. I know I've seen cycles through the curriculum that I know usually, like, it's my third grader and fifth grader, and they're both studying about the Revolution, and they're both, but at very different levels, and then they see it again at whatever grade they do U.S. history. I think it's ninth grade. So perhaps that's something that we need to think of as we're even thinking about, do we change it, do we not change it, but it's apparent that there is history that perhaps our students should be more aware of, and if they're more aware of it, then they would be more understanding that running out on the field with feathers and looking like they would have seen on TV in the 50s that's not appropriate. So I think that there is a piece that needs to be education from the bottom up. The second piece I find interesting is that the group of students who had written the letters and to us and we approved with regard to the naming of the second side of the bridge over the river, we're applauding their efforts for realizing that there is this other abolitionist who has such a rich culture and history here that we're giving them a lot of, we're applauding them for their efforts to understand that part of history. So perhaps if they were given the similar task for this type of thing, and the English classes, whether it's one group or a few different groups, were to study this, and were to do a similar study to what Andy did, and maybe got other sides of it too, maybe they would also come to a very good understanding of maybe we need to change. We are in a different era than we were when this tradition started. I don't believe this tradition was started in any kind of negative way. I think it
Right.
was in the best interest at the time, but it's 50 years ago. So at this point in time, I personally think there should be a change. I think that the student input needs to be at a very high level academically. It can't just be, well, what do you want? Because I don't think kids, unless they invest in the understanding and the learning, are going to make a good decision about this. And I think that I would hope that all of us on the committee have thought a lot through this whole process since it started. I think my opinion is the same it was at the beginning, but I know a lot of other people in town have changed their minds and have really thought about it at a higher level. So the student piece, I would like to see at that, an academic. Let's have them learn about these cultures enough so that they can make an informed opinion.
Doug?
Yeah, to help me work my decision, the actual Indian on the school seal, is that actually a picture or a profile of a person and that's a known person, or is that just someone's general idea of what they think this person should look like? Is there any history involved that people know about?
I'm pretty sure there weren't any sachems around when they came up with it, so I would guess it's a, yeah.
Tribes.
Any, Wayne?
If we want to find out, we do have one representative that did write in an email that said he was part of the decision-making, so we could actually contact him by email to find that out, Doug.
Well, my point is, just like in John Greenleaf Whittier, you see his picture on the side of buildings, you see his picture on his face on bridges and so forth. And if that is in fact a person who made history or was meant to be, preserved and educate people with, I don't think it's for us to, do away with it. I just would like to know, factually, if that was a real person or an artist drew the image.
Anyone else? Brian?
I'd like to agree with some of the things that Chris said. If this committee decides to change this, I don't think it should be a school committee. I think it should be approved by the school committee, but I don't think it should be a school committee decision. I think it should be a student body decision. And I agree with Chris as far as letting them research it. They did a lot of research on, she said, the abolitionists to the new Whittier Bridge. I think that's a wonderful idea, but I do think it's something that the student body should do if this committee decides to do that. And it should be something the committee approves, not decides what it will be, what it should be.
The only other thing I'd like to say is that from the start of this, I think I've been, well, if anybody's offended, I think it should be changed. But I also think it's an opportunity to start new traditions and to start, we're going to have a new building project hopefully starting sometime in the near future. And that traditions are good, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're what's good for the future. So I personally think I'd like to see a community effort with regard to that.
Joanna?
Just, Andy, you mentioned something about all the different places where this logo is. Jeff, is it possible for you to take a look and just see where it is that this logo exists? Like how many places it would have to be changed, what that impacts?
Yeah, what I remember is, I'm not sure who, but somebody stood up and said, I'd wonder what the cost would be to change everything over. So I think I could do like an inventory of all the signage and uniforms and all that to get an idea.
Anyone else,
Could I
Wayne?
just ask it, at the level with the name Sachem or with the actual logo on it? Do you want to do both ways or?
Yeah, I think I'd take a pretty deep look at and report back on what I find, across the whole board. Yeah.
Wayne?
I just want to make a quick point. After 40 years, students continue flow. So what you would possibly get for opinions on students in one 4-year period could be 180-degree different from the next 4 years and so forth, right down the line. You probably wouldn't see too much consistency any more than you'd see the consistency on rock groups. So I would be probably quite opposed to saying, let's get the present students to make the decision, because when the 5th, 6th, and 7th graders get up here saying, we don't even know who this is or whatever. So that's what would be, I want student input. I've always had student input no matter what I've been involved with. That's what I want to hear. It's their school. We want it to be the place of learning, etc. But to put it in the hands of a selected group and say they'll make the decision, and us 9 adults will either approve it or not approve it. So we need to be careful on that.
Jack was next. And then Brian and Andy.
Jack is next, okay.
I really don't want to drag this thing out, okay? This thing is taking on a whole new shape. You can discuss this for 6 more months, 7 more months, 5 years. We can discuss it all the time, okay? We've got to make a decision, and that's got to be it. We can't go and ask, I hear what everyone's saying about, well, what do the students feel about it? What is it? Then we're getting the younger parents against, younger kids against their grandparents. Then we're getting this one against that. I don't want this to turn into a war, okay? I think we had students come forward. The communication committee went and acted, okay? We had a hearing on it, and I think we should make a decision. I know we're not going to make it tonight, but I would like to know when we are going to make it. The next business meeting of what is going to happen here. Do we wait for a cooling off period or what?
Brian?
My comment to Wayne would be is we had a student body that brought this Sachem and our emblem here. So, I
Have to
mean,
start.
if we're going to change it, then it's, whether it be next year's student body, and I don't mean just the high school kid, I mean the whole student body.
Okay, and Andy?
I actually love the idea of having students do the research, because the problem here is when we rely on opinions, like I said, it gets you nowhere. What happened at that hearing was completely predictable, happens everywhere. And the arguments are all the same. I think, so fine, I did my work, whatever, believe it or throw it away, whatever. I think if we had students do real research into this and present their findings to us, that would provide a second source, a second opinion, if you will, from someone who's gone and looked at, what they think of this issue. And I think that could give us then, 2 data points in either way. Either they're going to come and say, no, we don't think it's offensive and we should just keep it. Or if they come in and say, yeah, we did the research, we probably ought to change it. I think that would be very informative, actually, if we had someone else other than me do some research as a second opinion. And I don't think it should be a race. I think we should do this right. And, people are going to yell no matter what. They tell them to yell at me, it's fine.
Is there anything
Listen,
new?
real quickly. If we keep dragging it out, you, the communications person, and the whole regional school system has put it out there, it's been in the newspaper, that tonight we're going to discuss it, this very important topic, after we had 40 people come. Now we've got an audience of 6. So if we continue, and you had just stated about have somebody else do the research to have an opinion. That's what you just stated. I said, Well, yours was research, and I'm not sure what this research is all about, other than the initial facts that you brought forth somewhat. So I'm with Jack, and I think a lot of the community is, and I'm only going to use our group here tonight as validation, because if they wanted it to continue, and they wanted their voices heard, whether it's opinion or not, and quite frankly, from a background in math and science, this isn't a black and white thing. You keep bringing it up about it's an emotional thing. Yes, it is. And I don't care how many times you attack it, human nature is going to go to emotion. And once again, we can drive, or we can at some point say we're going to vote on it. Based on, I mean, we put it out there, please email. I didn't get any individual, and we could ask right around the table, and the superintendent's office got 4. So I'm with Jack, and just dwelling on this for another year, I think would be wasteful time.
Andy?
There have been 1,300 views of the presentation, both on my school committee site and the school committee subcommittee site. There have been multiple comments. We live in a world now where not everyone's going to show up. Not
To
everyone,
you personally,
huh?
on your Facebook communication.
If you look
to
at views,
personally.
it's 1,300 on one, and it's like 160 on the other one. So there's been a lot of interest in this from people who didn't show up at the meeting. The meeting is as predictable in every town. This is what happened in Tewksbury. You get the generation that either picked the mascot or whatever showing up in their jackets and saying, let's keep it. It's absolutely predictable. The problem is there's this misconception that somehow we're saying they did something wrong. No one's saying that. What we're trying to say is, should we change it? And I think basing this decision on meeting attendance when we're talking about something, what I think is very important, is giving it a light treatment. And I think there's absolute research, there's empirical evidence. You look at the mascots there are in Massachusetts, that's actual stuff. And I think if the students did the research themselves, I'd be really interested to see what they came back with. I think it would be legit.
Brian?
Lisa is the chair. Can I make a recommendation that we put this on our next business meeting's agenda for a vote? And depending on how the vote goes, we can proceed from there.
Second, well, the dependent.
Okay, so,
I mean, if the committee votes to change it, then we can proceed on how to change it from there.
is there, I mean, I think we should set a timeline so everybody knows where we are with this as we move forward.
Discussion on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We determined tonight that we need some history, some facts. So I don't know if we're gonna have enough time to get all that information back to the committee. Because again, as far as the mascot goes, I would absolutely support choosing another mascot, but I would like to know if that's a historic person that we're doing away with.
Okay, so, I'm not sure, this is my first time here as a chair, but I think, is it appropriate for me to make a motion that we put this on the June agenda for further discussion and bring
So,
things
the
back?
Brian's made the
Brian.
motion,
Okay,
and Wayne has
Wayne
seconded. This is
So-
the discussion, so
so,
The
That's
motion was so we would vote it for the next meeting.
Right.
And
okay,
Yes.
I don't think walking into that meeting, giving us more information, that we'd be prepared to vote it. I think
okay, so there's a motion on the table, so can I have a vote?
Can I?
we're in discussion.
Okay.
So I kind of agree that I think we should act on this. I do agree with Brian Doug, I think that there might not be some of the financial implication that we've asked for, but I also think that there could be different steps for this. I don't think we have to vote in June. We're getting rid of everything. I think we can perhaps say, let's get rid of everything except what we're comfortable with maybe on this. And I'm not saying that this is what we should decide, but we could vote to say we could keep Pentucket sachems with this seal, but headdress and things that are totally inappropriate that I think we could all agree on have to be gotten rid of.
Yeah.
And then there could be future discussions as to, is this still okay? Or do we need to change this and choose a complete separate, like, I think the vote doesn't have to be next month, yes or no. I think there can be levels of where we get to in the vote.
Dina?
And that, I was gonna ask, just because I'm not sure how it all works, but do we have to vote to just change the whole thing, or could we just vote to, you know, only change the the Native American symbol and keep the name, or would that be two different motions? I'm not.
I
Want me
have
to help
something
out?
that I want to put out too, that concerns me, that I honestly don't know what's on every single thing. So it makes me, I think personally, I think the headdress and the tomahawk chop and all that stuff, I think it needs to stop. But I don't know what the full headdress is on. So if there has been a family that has dedicated something to the school district, in memorial perhaps, I don't want to say that I think that we need to stop, because I think there might be some other things that we need to look at. But I do think the headdress is not what was intended originally.
I was just gonna say, if I could get the information before the meeting, then I would be prepared to vote in the next meeting.
I mean, you get 2 weeks, right?
Lisa, could I help with
Yeah.
Dina?
Yes, please.
So I'm just going to help out. Dina, so the motion on the floor right now is what you would vote on to begin with. That can pass or fail. Another motion could come up. You could have a different thing that comes to the table that is passed or failed. So you vote one at a time as you go through.
Okay.
So because you vote, for instance, to have it on the next meeting for a vote, doesn't mean that you couldn't have a motion that changes how that all plays out for you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like Chris was saying, you could have levels of change that go on. So, you know, that's how the conversation evolves.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Wheeler, Jack?
May 3rd, the gentleman, Native American, he got up and his friend or whoever he was, got up and held the Massachusetts flag. To my knowledge, Massachusetts is not going to change that to a bean pot. It's an Indian, okay? And that's it. I understand about the tomahawk, the headdress, the whole thing. I understand about eliminating those. I understand about doing education in the classrooms about Pentucket sachems and about the Indian tribes and all around the Merrimack Valley. Okay, I look at that now and I see an Indian. I see the Merrimack River and I see trees. I don't see them shooting bow and arrows. I don't see buffalo falling down. I don't see nothing like you see on TV. And I think that's the ones that they're really disturbed about, that everyone's disturbed about. I see nothing wrong when someone started this logo and it's gone this far. And now people are saying, well, we may have to examine this, and maybe examine that, maybe examine this. Folks, hopefully you're going to have a brand new high school or a renovated high school. Do we say to the architect, hold on the logo, we don't know what it's going to be? You're going to hold up? I just can't see. I say either vote it up or vote it down with a criteria that there's education, no tomahawk chops, they get rid of all the logos with the chief on the coats, all that. I'm all for that. I don't see why that can't be done in one meeting, in one motion.
Wayne?
I think we can do it by the motion on the floor. We can say, and have a vote next time saying the way it stands right there from the original yearbook, we're keeping it that way. Maybe there's 9 people voting that way. Or, no, we vote to change. Now that we got the vote to change, now you can bring anything and everything in to see what we want to tweak, not tweak, whatever. But we might be spending a lot of energy. There might be 6 or 7 of us that say, no, I think we're going to keep it just the way it is, and that's the way to vote. But if it doesn't now, the vote, yes, we're keeping it, or no, we're not, and if we're not keeping it, then you readdress it to tweak it any way we want at a later date.
Joanna?
I thought that's the way I.
I thought so too.
Oh,
Brian.
yeah, but
I think that maybe the motion could say that we could vote at the next meeting to discontinue the use going forward of anything but the original seal for now.
Doug and Chris?
It would need more clarification to me because it seems like, what I'm hearing is we either vote to re-examine it all at all levels, or we're gonna vote to not open it at all. I'm just wondering, if we have to go that far into it. There's been challenge on the mascot, there's some challenge on the statesman, there's some challenge on this symbol. So to me, there's almost 3 different votes needed.
Chris?
I'd like to suggest that we start with the most basic vote, which is we don't do anything, keep using all the different mascots and keep things going as they are now. Or we vote that we do need to change something, and then we take the next step to discuss what should that change be. But I don't think we should vote on a change, like a change or more of a change, like we use that or we don't do anything. So what if we just did keep the status quo or let's change? And then we'll work on what that change will be.
Chris, you had your hand raised before?
Well, it was just to say, all we're voting on right now is if we're voting on it at the next meeting. So I think we have to keep that in mind, and then at the
Okay.
next meeting, we can talk about.
So there's a motion that was made.
Well, we need, but Andy just, I need to clarify, because Andy's gonna, everybody could vote no, because I wanna leave the logo as you see it on these tablecloths. If you wanna change something after that, then you vote no, okay, we wanna take the Indian off that. But if we vote for that logo as it is on the tablecloth, then that's what it is on all the uniforms. I don't wanna see headdresses on them, I don't wanna see tomahawks in their hand. That is the logo we have, and that is the logo that they will all have. So it's not, if everybody votes, no, we don't wanna keep this, then you can go about changing whatever you want.
Can I just ask for a clarification?
Yeah.
For Mary Ann. So, Brian, just for clarification's sake, you're voting to either approve the seal or not?
Correct.
As the official seal of Pentucket. Is that
Correct.
right?
And that is what would be used on our
Okay, that's
uniform.
sweet.
If they're gonna put an Indian on a uniform, that is the Native American Indian that will be put on the uniform.
Okay.
So,
You know, there's no sage on it.
okay, so I'm gonna repeat what was just
Well,
said,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So,
everybody's saying that everybody
Can I
has-
have, so there's already a motion.
Yeah.
To vote to approve the official sale of the Pentucket Regional School District at the next meeting, which is gonna be held in June, business meeting? So the third Thursday in June. Can I have a second on that?
We
did
Wayne-
we have
Wayne
one.
did.
Yeah.
Okay, so, all in favor? Okay.
So we have Wayne and Jack, Brian, and Joanna, and no opposed?
And Lisa,
Oh, Lisa, I'm sorry.
No, I just gotta read it again.
and is
Is he opposed?
Is there any opposed?
now opposed.
Okay.
Doug, Dina, Chris, Andy.
Okay, and any,
Or-
all set, is that
I
everybody?
think we have everybody, we just gotta tally it up.
6, 3, 0.
It passes.
So that's what we're going to vote on at the next meeting.
Okay,
And Wayne's got his hand.
so that's gonna be June 21st. Wayne?
I'm not sure everybody even realizes that Sachem's not even on that seal. So everything we've been speaking of about Sachem being inappropriate or appropriate, whatever, it's not even part of the seal. So now I'm gonna throw out another motion that at next meeting, we vote that Sachem stays as the Pentucket Regional Pentucket Sachems, or we go for a change. So my motion on the floor is next meeting,
Yep.
we either keep Pentucket Sachems or we go for a change.
I second.
For clarity, are you saying to keep the name Sachem or
Yes.
Yeah.
just the name Sachem on
Yeah.
the master way, just for clarity? Okay, that's what you're asking, okay, thank you.
In theory, our first vote is dependent on that vote, because if we say, let's get rid of Sachems, then that no longer is a.
Then that's gonna make us come back to the bargaining table and,
Well, we'll have to,
Agree.
well, then we got a whole other, yeah.
right, exactly, for another day.
Another year.
Okay, so now we have a
So,
second motion.
I
is there a second?
Yes, I second it.
Any discussion? No-
Okay,
No discussion?
so all in favor? Wayne
Okay,
and Jack?
Wayne, Jack, Brian, Doug, Lisa,
I'm at Wayne.
Wayne, Jack, Brian, Doug, Lisa, and Dina. Those are affirmative. Against,
Any opposed?
Joanna, Andy, and Chris.
Motion
The same
passes.
vote, okay. Okay, so moving on to next business is the 8th grade field trip to Washington DC. So, so each spring since 1999, a field trip to Washington DC and Colonial Williamsburg is offered to grade 8 students. The 2017 trip is tentatively scheduled for April 26th to April 30th, 2017. This learning experience is consistent with United States history curriculum. Our school committee policy number IJOA, field trips states, all overnight field trips must have the approval of the administration and school committee. So can I have a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
A
Second.
second? Any discussion?
I have just one thing. On the bottom of the field trip checklist, it states kitchen manager and nurse must initial this checklist. Under kitchen, do we have a kitchen manager?
We do,
It
but,
says notified.
yeah, so, there's not an impact on the cafeteria for this field trip.
Well, they're not gonna be feeding the whole 8th grade,
Right,
correct?
so, right, exactly.
But I mean, I just don't want somebody preparing food for them and
We
throwing
won't.
it away because
We won't, Brian.
nobody was here.
We won't, we'll take care of that. I appreciate that.
There'll be a lot of pizzas on Friday.
Yeah,
Any other discussion? No? Okay. All in favor? That's everybody, right? So any opposed? No?
thank you.
The next thing on the agenda is the music booster donation to the Pentucket Regional School District Music Department.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
We would just want to highlight that this is the approval from the music boosters for all the instruments, and you may recall that last spring we got the generous donation, the last concert we got the generous donation of $25,000 that went to the music boosters, and this is the result of that. So it's for middle school and high school music programming.
All in favor? That's everybody, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the donation to the Page School PTO.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Do you want to just
Do
give
you
a
want me to
little
read over
description?
this?
Just a little
Okay.
description. Yeah.
So the West Newbury PTO has compiled a donation proposal consisting of 13 iPads and cases, 8 Chromebooks, and an Epson Powerlight for use in the classroom at the Page School with a value of $8,187.07.
And we're very grateful.
Did we vote it? So can I have
So we have the
any other
motion.
discussion, or all in favor?
There we go.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the 2016-2019 Pentucket Regional School District and Pentucket Association of Teachers Unity Para-Educational Agreement. The members of the Pentucket Association of Teachers Unity have ratified the 2016-2019 agreement and look forward to the approval of the school committee. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I wasn't at the executive session for this. Are there any substantive changes that I should be aware of?
Well, I think the overall package is worth 2.5% for the, the financial impact, and I wouldn't say there are any substantive changes. I'm just looking around the table to see what your reactions were. Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor? That's everybody? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the agreement between the Pentucket Regional School Committee and the AFSCME Council 93, Local 939, Unity Clerical Employees, the ratification agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
It's the same question.
It's the same answer. So each of the contracts is worth about 2.5% for an increase overall, and there were changes. I would say in each of the contracts there are pretty substantial changes, but it was more of an update of language than language changes you typically think about in contracts, or things that would give you, either one way or the other, something very different, and that didn't occur.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the Pentucket Regional School Committee and the AFSCME Unity Custodial Agreement.
So
And this
moved.
is the ratified agreement. A second? Any discussion? All in favor?
I abstain.
Okay.
Conflict.
8, 0, 1. All set?
Yep.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is proposed staff increase for each elementary school.
Want me to do that?
So do you want me to read it?
I can
Okay.
introduce it. So Greg and I have talked through some of the changes that have come our way in terms of the finances, and we're pretty confident that if we patch together some savings from special education that have just recently been established, from some program changes, along with some predicted estimated savings in the insurance, healthcare, and some other avenues of resource, we'd be able to put in one elementary teacher at each school, which would be a big help to us in this upcoming year. I have one grade, well, there are several grades that could benefit. I want to be clear about that. But one grade 2 at Sweetser would have some relief. They currently would be registered at 25 and 24. Their numbers would be 16, 16, and 17, which would be a big help. Grade 2 at Page would be down to 15, 16, and 16. And Bagnell, grade 1 at Page, would be 16, 16, 17, and 17. So I want to emphasize that there are other grades that could benefit from this, particularly over at Donahue, but we're just not financially able to do more than this at this time. This is about $210,000 just to do this one move. The other caveat is that if I were to get, for some reason, a big rush into one grade, and I need to reestablish, where this position goes, then I would need to do that. So this is what I have for right now, and it's my intention to move forward with these with your approval.
Jack?
Where'd you get $210,000?
I just explained, Jack. We had we had a change in a placement, 2 placements from special education that just came through, and that's going to represent a big financial savings to us. We are predicting some savings from the health care benefits, the re-sign up of health insurance, and the third place was we had some additional revenue come to us through the State Department some smaller amount through there. So we think that that's where we'll be able to generate this.
What happens, you hire 3 people, and then you have, say, 3 special needs students come in? Do you tell them you're not hired?
That could happen. That could
Right.
happen.
What do you do then? What do we do then?
Well, it's what we always do. We have to keep looking at how to make things work. So right now, we think that we have some additional savings there that will also benefit for a potential placement. So we take all of those kinds of things into consideration. I think you know that both Greg and I are very conservative financially. I don't respond to a lot of pressure for increasing staffing. And this is about the best I can do, and it takes us another step forward.
Wayne?
I'm assuming Dr. Mulqueen and Greg Brack has a good handle on the finances. Even though most all my experience is high school, I think elementary school is critical. Half this board has elementary school children, and you know 15, 16, 17 is a heck of a lot better than 23, 24, 25. And if we can squeeze in a teacher at each level, great. It's not as though I have 25 and 30 in a high school class, because you can do it without impacting too much. But elementary school, they say we can squeeze it in, and I think we should do everything possible to get some relief down at the elementary schools.
Just to go along with that too, at the secondary level, we're really looking at every way to make consolidation and to squeeze out efficiencies. So it's not that we're just adding. We're always looking, how can we take advantage of efficiencies, and how can we, put the resource where we need it the most. So, this is my best attempt to do that.
Doug?
I support it. I think it shows to the parents who have come before us in the past that we do listen to them. We do take their wishes to heart, and when the time is right, we move in those directions. So absolutely support it.
Jack?
Yeah. Is this this includes the entire benefit packages too, for 3 people?
Yeah.
So this is everything, okay.
A parent had asked me why the decision was to put one in each school. Was it to balance this money being distributed to the 3 towns, or was it that you took a look at the highest classes that needed to lower the class sizes?
Yeah, so each school could take advantage of, could use additional support, and I thought it was only fair to put those across the whole system. They're very close. So again, I think Donahue has the greatest need. They have more classes with 22 or 23 than everybody else. But the highest grade levels are the highest grade levels, the highest population. This would give us below 20, I think, through grade 3 across the whole system, which would be a really good benefit. So to me, it makes sense to push the resource at the lowest grade level and then to try to work forward from that. So it's not just simply that I distribute funds across all the system to be fair. That's not fair. I look at where the needs are, but we're within 1 or 2 kids where the needs are across the whole system. So, I don't think that anybody would be able to fault me for just distributing, randomly.
I think a follow-up part of their question was also whether there's ever any really looking at higher size classrooms that also have a lot of perhaps behavioral issues or things like that the numbers might be lower than somewhere else in the district, but the actual needs of the students are higher.
I'll give you an example of what I did. So the Page School is an example of grade 2 or grade 3. Where do you put the resource? So I looked at the special education needs, the weight of that, the high need population that we have. And though it's distributed across all our system, in talking with the principal and with with Mike Jarvis, grade 2 had a little bit difference. I could have put it in grade 3, without too much trouble. But to me, the conversation that we last had was, how do you front end the resource? at the lowest grade level. So that's the direction I took.
Anyone else? Okay, so do I have, go ahead and vote on this?
Yeah, we need a
To
motion to
approve,
approve, yeah.
I'll make the motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to add one teacher at the Bagnell, Page, and Sweetser elementary schools for the purpose of reducing the class size.
Second.
All in favor? That's everyone, okay. The next item on the agenda is the new school committee agenda format. So the format for the school committee agenda includes discuss and approve. The origin of this component of the agenda was to increase transparency to the public regarding the intentions of the school committee for items on the agenda. And approval can occur without prior notification. And clarity is needed for the intentions of the school committee to continue using the discuss approve component as a source of clarity for the public. And this is a discussion only item.
Oh, I can start, because I obviously asked for this to be added to the agenda because, like this was added as a new thing at the beginning of my term when I was chair, so that if it said discussion, it would be on there for discussion. And if it was something that we were going to approve at the meeting, it would clearly say approve. So, we don't really have this as a policy, but I feel like for both the public and for board members, if something is on there for discussion only, it should not be moved to vote during the meeting. And I know it can be moved to vote, but I don't think it should be moved to vote. So that's just my opinion, but I think we need to make a decision about, whether or not we want to continue with this format.
Anyone, Brian?
I agree with Joanna, and tonight brings up a perfect example of it with the mascot issue. There is just, if something's on the agenda for a discussion, there may be information brought forward, and I just don't see, like Doug said, he wanted more information on whether that's a real person. We can't give that to him tonight. So if somebody moved to approve it tonight, I don't think that's right. I think we should, if it says discussion, it's a discussion, not for approval. If it's for discussion and approval, then we move forward with a motion to approve or disapprove.
Wayne?
And I think Joanna probably wants to make a motion. No?
No, 'cause it's on for discussion only. I just want to.
Bring clarity to it.
Yeah, and it was never a policy. Like
That's
we
right, that's
yeah.
right. But you want to make a motion that at some point we make it a policy, so if it says
Move to the
discuss,
policy
it's
subcommittee.
discuss only.
Yeah.
I can make that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you could have that because it would be a contradiction in what
Yeah.
your ability to do as a committee would be. But I think from what I'm hearing Joanna say is, could we agree that it would be unusual to move it forward for a vote?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could have a situation where you really do want to move it ahead for a vote.
Chris?
So I think two things need to be done. I think one is we need to discuss with the MASC what would be the proper direction for something like this. Because when this last situation happened, I reached out to Mike Gilbert, and he agreed that in that case, starting to videotape the subcommittee meetings was probably important enough to change it from a discuss-only topic. So we could have other situations like that. The second thing is I think we need to look at what other school committees perhaps do. I looked at Newburyport's today, and they had a little star next to anything that could be a possible vote. That didn't mean it was going to be voted on, but it could be a possible vote. So I think we need to gather some information that helps us make this decision.
Brian?
Chris brings up that point there that you were moving forward with something that did not have a full board. And I don't think that's fair to the rest of the board. You've had days where you couldn't make it. I had a day where I couldn't make it, and there were other board members that weren't here that I also understand. So you're only half a board, and you're going to move forward with an approval of something? I don't think that's right.
But Mike Gilbert's perspective on that is if there's an item that you would have come to the meeting because we're voting for, would that have been one of those items that you would have come to this meeting to vote on that? Otherwise, our attendance is here as part of our role as a school committee. And if I don't attend a meeting and I miss a vote, that's on me because I wasn't able to attend the meeting.
But if it's that important of an issue that needs to be approved, then it should be on the agenda for approval. And I would have tried to arrange my schedule if it was on that agenda for approval. If I believed it was that important for a vote, I would have tried to arrange my schedule. But it was not on the agenda for a vote, it was on the agenda for a discussion.
And I think that indicates that there's certain topics we're here for, and there's other topics that we don't care about, and I'm not on the board for that reason.
That's not true,
so-
Chris.
Well, that's what you're saying.
No, it's not. I had an appointment I had to be at, and had I known in advance that it was going to be
For that
approved
single
on,
vote, not for other things on the agenda that night.
we get this a week in advance. And if it had been on the agenda a week in advance, that it was gonna be voted on, then I would have arranged my schedule to be here.
I wouldn't do that.
That's you.
I-
I'm just telling you, I would have made arrangements to be here if it was on the agenda for approval.
I still think we need to reach out and gather information with regard to this.
Does anybody have anything new to add?
Well, I don't know that we've come to a consensus. So my feeling on this, I'll just say one more thing, is if, we have a full board, and there's an item that is on for discussion only, and the full board decides, that it's really important and it has to be moved forward, then maybe we could. But if there's not a full board present, I don't think that we should be moving things forward for approval. And in general, I don't think it's fair when the public does not know either that it's not on for approval. So, and I don't think that taping the subcommittees was, at that point, important enough. I mean, this is something that we haven't had subcommittees taped forever. So I don't think it was like that pressing a topic that it needed to be pushed forward for a vote that night. Chris?
But I also feel that the intent of the agenda is to give people information, but there's always changes made to it. We add things to the agenda all the time, and some of the things that are added are a vote. And the rules of our school committee and the regional agreement is that as long as there is a quorum, we can conduct a vote. Not that we have to have everybody there. We have to have a certain amount. I think there has to be certain members from certain towns if there's a special vote. But if it's strictly an agenda item and it's not a special vote, then so you're putting a higher level of expectations than there actually are in our bylaws or in our regional agreement.
Why don't we check with Mask and just see what the best practice is, and, because they may say, well, you can say discussion, but if someone moves to take a vote, you can still do that, so.
Yeah, no, I think that's the official rule through MASC. I'm just saying
Right.
that I think that in general, we should make it we should have an agreement one way or the other that we will be voting on things, that we will not be voting on things that are on there for discussion only unless there's something urgent. And I think the change should be made at the time when we set the agenda, if you're gonna make the change.
But then you're still adding things to the agenda at the last minute. So that's a contradiction.
Okay,
But
it's
the
my
agenda items are added with the approval of the school committee.
So at the
Only
beginning,
the people present, not the full school committee.
Just to be clear, that vote was because, Joanna, I think you said, let's vote on this, so we just voted on. This wasn't like us saying, we're gonna vote, no one's here.
Voted on what?
On the
Subcommittee.
I did not.
taping the subcommittees,
not move
and the
that
vote
to
just
vote.
happened, and Dr. Mulqueen pointed out, hey, this is for discussion only,
Right.
then we cut off the vote. So the reality is, I don't think the agenda broke down as it was, it just, we had an honest mistake and we didn't follow the discuss only thing.
okay, I'm
But this wasn't some conspiracy.
gonna suggest that, this come back to the committee at some point in time, and in the meantime, we get clarity from Mike Gilbert. But it's my understanding from coming to meetings that you vote through the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, and changes are made, and then it's voted through. So I have never sat through a meeting that after the agenda's been voted through and agreed on, that halfway down the agenda would make a change to it. I've never seen that happen before. But we can certainly check with Mike Gilbert on this, and as well as what other school committees do. Any other discussion? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the Crest update. So the Pentucket Regional School District is a member of the Collaborative for Regional Educational Services and Training, which is Crest. And Chris, would you like to update the committee?
So the summary that I had given to Mary Ann to share in the packet, Crest is doing really well. I think the leadership changed over about 4 years ago now, and they just really have a great way of working with the students they have, of attracting other students into the program, of wanting those students to return to the local districts. You know, that's their goal. Sometimes students aren't able to do that. Sometimes students have to go to a higher level. But I'm very impressed with everybody at Crest, that they've grown through the years. They've understood their challenges with the space that they have, and they've expanded. And they're always looking a step ahead. They're not reacting. So I'm very impressed with that. I think everything that I put on here are valid points as to where Crest is going, where we are right now. Financially, they're doing very well. The one piece that's kind of a bigger issue, and it's a bigger issue for all collaboratives, is that quite a few New Hampshire communities take advantage of sending students to,
Excuse me.
quite a few New Hampshire communities take advantage of sending students to local collaboratives in Massachusetts because they don't have similar programs offered in New Hampshire. So then you have a population of students who are there without representation on the board, without representation in the finance committees, without being able to be part of the special ed leadership program. So there's a big discussion right now. At the state level, it's not necessarily allowed, but perhaps there could be this junior membership or some kind of, where they get to take part in that. They get benefits, the collaborative gets benefits, because it is a significant part of their population. So that's in the investigation part. That would be a part that would have to go back to us to vote on if we were to add an additional level of membership. So right now, they're either members or non-members. There's an associate members for people who, say, some town wants to be part of the collaborative, but the vote doesn't take place till July 1st. So during that interim period, they get some financial benefit. They put in some time. So, but that's just Massachusetts communities. So that's the only thing that's kind of bigger on the horizon with regard to Crest right now.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, so the last item on the agenda is informational items, which are Pentucket Educational Foundation donations. So the committee doesn't need to vote on them, but I just wanted to acknowledge them and thank Pentucket Educational Foundation. So the PEF donated $366 to be used towards the purchase of a wireless receiver for the middle and high school. They donated $200 to the arts towards the purchase of a printer. And they donated $1,400 towards the purchase of the STEM high school electrical kits. And the last one is $750 towards the STEM middle school, I'm sorry. That's the one that I just read, isn't it?
No, is that
Oh, okay,
different one?
different amount. $750 towards the STEM middle school electronic kits. So one's to the high school, the other one's middle school.
Very good.
Okay, so can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Oh, Maria?
A statement on behalf of the students in the association of teachers. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the work and the collaboration between the school committee and the superintendent.
Maria.
Oh, okay.
Take it from the top.
Okay. I covered over there.
Maria Gray, President of the Association of Teachers, Pentucket. I just felt it would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the support from the superintendent with his recommendation and the school committee to provide for additional staffing at the elementary schools, as has been outlined and approved tonight. It's a lot more than just lessening those numbers in the classrooms, which we all know is a goal that we worked all hard on together over the past few years. It's about coming together as a team for the betterment of all students. And I wanted to applaud your efforts, and I know we thank you all students and staff. We could use more relief across the board, but this is a wonderful start for us for the next academic year, and I wanted to thank you for that.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
I did.
We did.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Good job,
The
Lisa.
only thing we